Hello and welcome to this new episode of Bootstrapping Your Dreams Show. I'm your host Manoj Agarwal, and today we'll be talking to Dr. Siwei Lyu, who is one of the world's foremost experts in deepfakes. In fact, he invented one of the first algorithms to detect deepfakes. I'm really excited to have this conversation. Welcome, Dr. Lyu. Can you tell us a little bit about you and what is your claim to fame? I mean, you have done quite a bit in the field of AI.
Thank you, Manoj. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, a little bit about myself. My name is Siwei Lyu, and I'm a faculty member in the Computer Science and Engineering Department, University at Buffalo. It's part of the State University system of New York State. I'm a trained computer scientist, and my research interest lies in artificial intelligence, computer vision, machine learning, with a special focus on media forensics. So this is an area I've been working ever since I entered grad school for my Ph.D. degree. So that was, I'm counting like 23 years ago when I entered grad school. I was fortunate to study under Professor Hani Freud, who is the pioneer, the first set of great researchers working in this area. So at the very beginning, we started work. My thesis work is about detecting manipulations to digital images, use photo editing softwares like Photoshop back then. So this work slowly evolved into broader range of types of manipulations and also become moving to synthesis. So we started in the past been working on detecting whether an image is spliced in part of is a composite of two other images, or somebody copy paste a part of the image to cover some other part of the image. And I started growing to like audio manipulation, like somebody cloning some other voices using pre-AI softwares, and then also video splicing detection. And then deepfake show up, and that's actually something immediately caught my attention because I work in the AI area. I've been, the other part of my research is actually
Mhm.
about AI. So I see the two worlds colliding. So that's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
it
yeah.
happens. Yes.
That's amazing. And so, for people who are not familiar, how big of a problem this is, or maybe we don't even know how big of a problem this will become. But can you tell us from your point of view, like what are deepfakes, how big of a problem it is, why is it such a big problem? Why you are so passionate about it?
Sure. Well, deepfakes is the I would say street name for usually what I call them is AI generated content, because that's carrying more neutral meaning of it. The reason I mentioned this is um, not all AI generated contents are bad. So deepfakes refer to misuse the AI generated content. Okay, and the technology behind that is what people call generative AI models, and it's called deepfake because it's used one predominant machine learning technology called deep learning, and to create fake media. So it's indeed a coined word combining
Yeah, yeah,
the two terms. Now, deepfakes is truly a problem because it's like the first time people ever use this word is in November of 2017. And that's when the first time people know this term. But I think 6 years after, I doubt anybody who hasn't never
yeah,
heard about this word, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how big it is. And we're seeing a lot of them, and the level of realism and convincing, the level of convincingness is ever increasing. So now deepfakes is as I said, is a misuse of AI generated contents, but this mostly refer to audio, image, and video that represent somebody's faces or voices for impersonation, but also can be more general to images, audios, videos of depicting general topics, generic scenes. So their numbers are growing. So I heard recently there was like a 23 million. I couldn't get the exact number, but like between just like from last year to this year, somebody did the estimation. The number of AI generated contents on social media doubled, very fast. Not only their quantity increases, but also their quality increases. So 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I first started working on the problem, there's so many artifacts that I don't even worry about. That's going to be a problem. But now I think it becomes more and more difficult. Even for me working in this area for this long time. So I think that's the challenging our perception to cognitive ability to tell them apart. That's the first set of problem. And the second problem is we call them deepfakes because they were usually used for some, I'll say, shady intentions. Either this is for disinformation, spreading something that so that we can influence other people's opinion, or to be used in scams or frauds to gain an advantage over users. And the worst kind of deepfakes are those attacking individuals, use their imageries without consensus and put them into some bad situation and then spread them online. So I think these are real risks, and we are already feeling the pain they're causing. So it's not a hypothetical problem. It is a real problem. It's happening, and it's going to be bigger and bigger with the technology advancement and with the ever wider reach of social media. So I think it's a problem of high concern. We should all be aware of. Yes.
Yeah. No, thank you for explaining that. And now, since it is such a big problem and it is on the mind of so many people, there, like, even when there is a new story, like a true story, some people explain it by saying, "Oh, this cannot be true. It may be a deep fake," or the other way around, as you said, like, a lot of people use it for scams. Like, how do you think we'll be able to tackle it? Like, do you think the good guys are going to win, or do you think the bad guys are going to win?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, the way I think about, I'm not completely optimistic saying deepfakes is not going to be a problem. It's going to be some kind of annoyance. That would not be true. But on the other side, I'm not completely pessimistic either. I don't think deepfakes is going to become a phenomenon that's completely out of control. The way I think about the phenomenon of deepfakes is making an analogy with the pandemic. We just passed pandemic, right? So up to this point, we'll say the pandemic is not causing huge trouble, but initially, indeed, people got sick from it, and even people die from it. But we're reaching some kind of equilibrium to learn to coexist with the virus. We haven't killed, we haven't eliminated the COVID virus. Virus is still there, right? So the way we learn to do that is, first of all, we come up with countermeasures, right? Those are vaccines, medications that cure, prevent the virus infecting us. Secondly, we also learn to protect ourselves better. So everybody develop a much better hygiene habits. We wash our hands a lot, cover our faces, when in public. Those are the things really help in this way. And then also government, putting a lot of resource investment into the countermeasures. I believe, deepfakes will become, because even though deepfakes get fast development, but it's also getting a lot of attention, and people are more and more realizing the negative impacts of deepfakes. So that countermeasure mechanism is going to come into play. Similar like the virus in the pandemic case, we'll have counter technologies. These are we'll talk about detection technologies. We'll also have prevention measures like vaccines, but more importantly, we'll have a higher level of awareness, alertness to deepfakes. So every user will learn to be aware of deepfakes. So when they are seeing something, they will not easily be taken away by those media. Yeah,
I see. So do you again, I'm just throwing it out there because I read some opinions about, like, do you think when we see a news story or a picture or a video, like there will be like a mark of authentication or something, or like what kind of mechanisms do you envision that will help a normal person, who's not very familiar with technology, or they're just like consuming media online?
Yeah, I think that's another good question. The way I think deepfakes is a complicated is a complex social technical problem, and we actually encountered that. My work is developing uh, um, algorithms that can be used to detect or mitigate the effect of deepfakes. But when we were working on those projects, we realized that simply marking something as deepfakes may not be the most effective way to slow down or stop their propagation, because marking something as deepfakes has sometimes a reverse effect, and a lot of people
Mm.
actually, for curiosity, for
Yeah,
whatever reason,
yeah, yeah,
they want to see that deepfake, right? And
yeah,
they
yeah,
maybe say, okay, this is so cool, I'm gonna share with my friend, with my
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's something that is need to be done very carefully. And but coming back to that, I think the way we keep defects under control, the impacts of defects under control, by using a series of technical and social measures altogether. That will include first line of defense on social media. When somebody uploading something first, right, those media will be examined to say this is probably not real, right? So something like a content filter moderation
Mhm.
will take place, and that's where technology will help, right? And also when somebody is making generative AI, using generative AI models to make deepfakes, then those generative AI tools could potentially also put in what's watermarks or whatever kind of signals that will be used later for their authentication and verification. But once they start, I mean, none of these are bulletproof. So there will be still things that going through the holes and still be spreaded on social media. Then the users, with a higher level of awareness, they will see something that is, the first time, somebody see an interesting image or hear some politician say something that is not in their usual way. The first idea pop up in their mind is to say, look, let's do a fact check, right? Fact checking by news media agencies, government agencies, of course, will play a very important role there. But I think every user will form like the most effective defense by not gullible to deepfakes. So we go around for other information sources and see cross-validate if this is actually indeed the case. And also maybe just as an intellectual challenge, when we suspect something is deepfake, we can look into the image or listen to the audio a little bit more closely and try to identify those artifacts. They're always artifacts. They're just become harder and harder to detect, right?
Yeah.
And then they can also use those tools provided independently from the social media platform and apply to them. And lastly, I think we need to have a better education. I'll say inform the users. All the defects. I mean, it's something worth of concern, but it's also something that's not you need to be fear mongering. It's not going to
Mhm.
be like everything we're seeing are created by AI, and we cannot tell them different. That
Yeah.
we're not there yet. And I think with all the countermeasures coming in, maybe we'll never go into that doomsday scenario. Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I'll ask you a different question and from a different angle. Like, so from your point of view, do you think the trust that we have in each other is eroding now? Is it becoming less and less? Because if we had fundamental trust in other human beings, maybe this problem will not be such a big problem, right?
That's a good point. And I think the answer to that question is beyond the discussion of deepfakes.
Yeah.
We are, but you are absolutely right. The human society runs on trust, right? So it is the foundation of social relation between people. And build on trust, we can collaborate. We can we can do things, right? And deepfakes, I think is, well, I would say trust is always something that's very rare, among people. Right? It's you trust your friend, you trust people but some complete stranger, in the past, somebody not in your usual circle, we do not have that trust. We need to build that trust. We need to forge that trust and strengthen that with time. Now, with social media and internet, I think trust go beyond geographically closeness, and then we start to work with people who have never been in the same room together before, but we learn to trust. And then technology coming in, like blockchain, all this wonderful digital verification, authentication tools can be used for trust. But unfortunately, there are a lot of counter forces that actually eroding the trust, right? So social media, bring people closer in one way, also drive people far away from the other. Simply because I now can, see many different views. Sometimes it's not helping me to, form a stable image of the person I'm working with, right? So I think deepfake is just like adding salt to the injury, to this problem. Now, it used to be like, at least I trust I'm talking to a real person. I'm seeing what is happening by a camera capture the scene. With deepfakes, that becomes even more dubious, and that's really what deepfakes is of fundamental concerns. Yes.
That's great. Thanks for answering that. Now, what are some of because you've been in this for quite a bit of time. You are a global leader in this. What are some of your success stories in terms of detecting deepfakes? Like, do you have any stories that maybe it had your work had a positive impact on somebody's life or something along those lines?
Yes. Well, we do, but let me first I have to say, up to this point, everything we're doing is still on the verification side. So we wish we can do better. We wish we can do more. And but unfortunately, the detection is usually post-mortem. So something happened, right? So in some of the cases, the damage has been caused. What we're doing is just helping the victim to recover from the consequences. So I'm specifically talking about the case. So I helped a case in that was a legal case, and it's a victim of a phenomenon called the revenge pornography, and that is a particular phenomenon just showed up after the deepfake. In the deepfake era, it's particularly involved women. So the victim is a woman, and again, the problem is caused by her former partner. Have a pretty bad breakup, because the perpetrator has access to her personal data. So that person was able to use images of her imagery and voice of her, and then put a request on dark web, and for people to make a video, pornographic video, but planting her face into those videos, and that's causing huge problem. And it's not just in dark web; it's actually in other more outside in the open social media. So that's causing tremendous stress on the victim, and she has to go through psychotherapy, and it's also very, very hard for her to recover, to actually clean up all those damages. So I think at least I was being able to call in and come up with issue a report and say this is actually created by AI. At least from that side we help her to cope with this problem. But I wish we could do more. And that's one reason we start to move on to passive detection to more active protection. So one of the projects my group is working on right now is to say, empower the user so that we can protect our data from being misused by people who make deepfakes on top of us, right? So we are sharing so many data on social media, and if somebody want to make a deepfake of me, it's quite easy to go on YouTube, find my video, and download the train their model, and they can make a new video and make me say whatever they want me to say.
Yeah.
That's very dangerous. So I think that's something we're trying to do. Is inviting we try to develop technology so that we can protect our data, so that if they use them for such way, we'll be able to catch them. Well, along my ways, I have also helped a lot of journalists and reporters to analyze the deepfake media, potential deepfake media, simply because for purposes of disinformation, and I do this particularly for places where there's low level of technical support. Like there was Indian reporter. She was she realized that there were a lot of deepfakes in the Indian election circulating on social media. So she's trying to find ways to verify, authenticate, at least come up with checks of those media. And so she looked around and she asked for companies. Most of them, requires a fee, that she has to pay. And, coming from India, she doesn't have that much. So she sent me a cold email. She said, could you help me? I'm a little desperate. And I said, of course, I work in a university. It is my responsibility to help the public, not just of course Americans, but also everybody in this world fight back this situation. So we did for about 2 weeks. We have almost very high frequent communications, and we help her to verify quite a few media there. Not all of them are deepfakes, but not all of them that we can confirm they are deepfakes, but many of them they are. So so those are the things I can feel like my work has a real life impact.
That's amazing. I obviously you're doing such a great work, and these examples are really inspiring and encouraging. But when you touched upon this important point, like how can we empower? Like obviously you're working on technologies, but what can people do today to prevent their data from being misused, or is there something that people can do today to prevent being a victim of a deepfake?
I would say it's very difficult. There's something you can do, like low tech, no tech way you can do, but I would say it's not very effective yet. That's why there are a lot of research. At least not so many people have paid attention to this problem, but we realize that's a huge open research area that we need to work on. But I think to basically coming back to common sense, don't share to people who are you don't want to share with, right? So keep your personal data only share with people who you can trust. Again, coming back to your early question, trust is the critical thing here. Now, if you have to share something that's to an environment that you may not have trusted audience, then I think put some watermarks in your data. Have something that is very special. Special setting. You always put on some. Again, this is for women. I was giving a talk at for social workers helping the victims of domestic violence. I said, when you share your image video on social media, put on some special makeups, something that will distinguish you from the typical you. And then when somebody is making deepfakes, so now with the making deepfakes, they use your data as training data. So if you always put on something that's distinguish yourself from the other, the real life you, then you'll be able to see that's made from your data, and make it a lot easier to tell that there are deepfakes. And I think that's so much so we can do at this point. But I think in the future, this situation will change. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's thanks for sharing those tips. Now, through your journey, this is not an easy problem to solve. Can you tell us a little bit about what that journey was like in terms of maybe you had some failures along the way, maybe you had learned some lessons along the way. what were those like lessons as you going through this journey, which is like cutting edge, and there's no like history book or something you can read about all this. Like this is all brand new stuff. So any lessons that you learned, that will be great.
Yes, absolutely. I think the one of our first lesson learned, when deepfake first show up, we developed an algorithm specifically targeting the deepfakes, the first generation of deepfakes. That was in early 2018, when we observed that deepfake, when you use the early generation of generative AI tools, create a deepfake video, the person in the video do not blink very often.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a reason for that, because their training data are not video data. They train from images, and they Google search somebody's image and then use that as training data. Now, because most of the images on personal photos, for whatever reason, the photographer upload only images with the person, mostly with the person eyes open. So that's why the model could not understand this. So that's how we detect it. But only like we published this work. Well, we put a preliminary version of the work on archive, so people start to notice that. We got some reporter interest in this, so people see this in the news as saying, deepfakes can be detected without eye blinking. And then about 2 weeks, I got someone actually sent me email saying, that's I can do a deepfake that can blink naturally, and can you try that? And I actually got the video, I run the algorithm. Yet it's right, they actually can do that, and I know the trick, and it's easy. That it's you just train it on video data. So I learned two important lessons from this experience. First of all, I think it's a cat and mouse game. You got a defense. It's not the end of the task. It's not like I work in my other research projects, where I'm dealing with a purely scientific problem. If you got this algorithm, you got a solution to the problem, you're done. You move on to the next one, because the problem will not change,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's a fixed definition. Now here we have adversarials, and so they look at how you do this, they learn your trick, and then they improve their algorithm. It means that we cannot stop. We have to continue evolving our detection technologies alongside with the improvement of generation technologies. The second one, I think, is also we also learned is having a detection method based on something that's intuitive is a double-edged sword. So if something I can easily understand and I can easily explain to my audience, then it's also easy to fix, because once they know this mechanism, some simple measure should be sufficient to fix it. So starting from that point, I convert to something that's less intuitive, maybe less explainable, and then my reasoning goes like, if we talk about matching up DNA or blood type, we probably cannot explain why this person have this kind of DNA, this kind of fingerprint, right? But pure matching is sufficient, is strong enough to say that there is an association there. So in deepfake detection, we're not really looking for the causal reason why this is a deepfake. We're mostly looking for, there's something that makes this one similar to the deepfakes, created in the past, or
Okay, I see.
so that matching idea, is probably more effective as a forensic measure.
I see.
So that was like one of the first interesting experience, and then we provide this. The second lesson I learned is there is a. That's where I know I start to understand this is not a technical problem, because I understand that we need to continuously develop detection algorithms, and then I realized that nobody is going to use that unless they understand how to use this, right? So
Yeah.
the first time reporters come to me and I direct them to say, use this algorithm, I developed it's works pretty well, right? It turns out that none of them can do that, because I do everything.
Yeah.
Get the code compiled on my
Yeah.
computer,
Yeah.
a command. They cannot do that. And I realized that if I do not make this easier for them, the algorithm will stay as a research paper. Nobody gonna care. So we built this platform called Defakeometer, and our purpose there is now to promote my own detection algorithm, because there are also many interesting research development in the area. I'm not the only person doing this. So what we're trying to do here is provide an easy web access to typical users without the pen of understanding, without the pen of understanding the AI, the technical details of the detection algorithm, without the cumbersome process of getting the code, download them, configure them, and run on their computer. Everything is prepared in the backend for you. All you need to do is sign up, upload your media, and then you use one of the analytical modules to work on your upload. And we use algorithms from across the world, from my colleagues, people I know, especially when those methods has good performances. So I think that's a good lesson. Make me feel like as a researcher, we typically satisfied with publish a paper and move on to the next one. This one, if I want to have real world impact, I need to do the last mile, bring it into the hands of the users. Then we'll start to see the real world impact. Now the system, we put on a revamped system January this year. I think up to the end of June, we already have like more than 600 people registered, and we have seen like 7,000, between 7,000 and 700, 750, 7,500 uses. So it's being used a lot. So I think that's the second part. Now, if you have time for the third lesson,
of course.
I realized that again, our platform can be abused. So there was one day we see a high unusual use of the model, and then I start to understand that there are people using the platform. Not everybody uses the system with lofty goals. There are people who was trying out the system, and so that they can develop deepfakes, evade all the detections. All this bring down to me, starting from a naive computer scientist thinking about technology going to solve all the problems we have in the world. Now I have a intimate understanding that we have to work together. It's not something that one person or even like one community can work out a good solution. We need to work with the government agencies to come up with legislation. We need to work with tech companies to implement all of these measures. We need to work with media so that they can amplify this message, improve the users' awareness. We also need to work with general public and maybe special demographic groups to protect them from this threat. And then combine that with technical development. I think that's where we'll see an ultimate solution to this problem.
That's great. Well, I think you're already doing a lot of good work. You're already making a huge impact. So, well, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your expertise. Now, before I let you go, can you tell us, if people want to connect with you, what will be the best way to connect with you?
Well, send me an email, or you can try out the Defakeometer platform. You can just search for defake-o-meter. So that will bring you, Google search that name, will bring you to the platform. It's completely free, and it's open to everyone. I mean, just to avoid being abused, we put a cap on the number of submissions somebody a typical user can have. But otherwise, just give it a try. And we love to know feedbacks. Tell us what we didn't do well, especially what we can do to make the analysis result more meaningful to you. I think that would be really, really helpful. So I welcome all comments, feedbacks, communications. Yes.
Awesome. We'll put the links in the show notes so that people can reach out easily.
Yes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.